Welcome everyone to today's teacher credential orientation session. My name is Jean Reynaga and I am the teacher preparation and recruitment advisor in the College of Education and Integrative Studies. Thank you all for joining today. Before we get started, I do just want to cover a few brief housekeeping items, and then we'll jump into the presentation. Today's presentation is being recorded, and I will provide you with a link to this recording after today's session. I'll also include a copy of today's PowerPoint, so don't feel like you have to jot everything down. I will provide this to you to reference at a later time. But again, as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who joined right at 4, go ahead and feel free to take down any notes you have. As I progress through the slides, if you have any questions, go ahead and enter them into the chat, and I'll pause periodically throughout the presentation to address those questions. But then I also will have time at the end of today's session for Q&A. So if you don't want to use the chat, you want to wait till the end to ask your question live, that's fine as well. But feel free to use the chat to kind of get the question off of your mind, and then I'll take a look at that as we progress. Additionally, I did mute everyone, but this is just only to allow everyone to hear the information being presented. And then, like I said, during the Q&A session, you can either unmute yourself to ask your questions, or if you want to continue to use the chat, that's fine as well. Now, before we continue on, can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. Okay, so just a short agenda for today. I'm going to talk about credentialing in California, a brief overview for those of you who might not be familiar. I'll then move into the Cal Poly Pomona credential programs that we offer, including the application process and deadlines. There's some additional credential information that I'll share with you after that, and then we'll move into our Q&A area or section. Okay, so obviously all of you are here today because you're interested in becoming a teacher. And in my humble opinion, I think the teaching profession is a very noble profession. It's a profession that allows you to walk alongside the youth and help shape them and help them to become future contributors in society. And I think this that role of a teacher carries great responsibility, and the fact that you want to be to be a part of such a great profession, I applaud you all. With credentialing, every state in the United States kind of establishes their own requirements to become teachers. And usually there's an agency that oversees credentialing. In California, or the state of California, the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or CTC, they're the agency that oversees credentialing. And they outline everything that needs to be done in order for you to become a teacher in California. The first one is you do need to have a bachelor's degree. The next two requirements, basic skills requirement and subject matter competence. I'll go into a little bit further details on how you can satisfy both of those requirements, but those are required to become a teacher in California. For those of you interested in pursuing the multiple subject credential, you're also required to pass the, actually, let me back up just a little bit. For those of you interested in the multiple subject credential or the education specialist credential to teach special education, you'll also need to pass what's called the RECA exam. It stands for Reading Instruction Competence Assessment. And that exam is typically completed sometime during the credential program. For those of you interested in the single subject credential, you're not required to pass the RECA. The RECA is only required for those of you who are interested in a multiple subject credential to be an elementary teacher or special education teacher for the education specialist credential. Item 5 is you will need to complete a course in the provisions and principles of the U.S. Constitution. For those of you who graduated from a California State University or who will graduate from a California State University, a CSU campus, you meet the U.S. Constitution requirement upon graduation. For those of you who may have completed your undergraduate studies at another university, maybe a private institution or maybe a University of California campus, a UC campus, there might be a course in your undergraduate studies that fulfills the U.S. Constitution requirement. And if you want to send me an email with where you attended for your undergraduate studies, I can look up that campus. I only have California campuses, and then I can let you know which course at that campus meets the U.S. Constitution requirement. If you took that course and you earned a grade of C or higher, you meet U.S. Constitution. If for some reason you didn't take such a course, that's okay. You can always take a U.S. Constitution exam sometime during the program. And if you completed your undergraduate studies out of state, you can still submit a course to be reviewed for U.S. Constitution. I just don't have a complete list of all 50 states and what courses satisfy the U.S. Constitution requirement. I only have a list of California colleges or universities. Item number 6, you will need to complete a commission-approved teacher preparation program, and Cal Poly Pomona's teacher preparation programs are commission-approved. And lastly, you will need to obtain a formal recommendation for the credential by a program sponsor. And that formal recommendation typically comes from the credential program that you complete your program. Once you fulfill all of these items, your program will recommend you to the commission. If everything looks good, the commission will issue you your teacher credential. And then you can then go teach in California. At Cal Poly Pomona, we offer several different programs or pathways that you can earn a credential. We have combined programs where you can earn either a bachelor's degree with the credential or you can earn a master's degree with the credential. We also have credential-only programs. In addition to our teacher credential programs, we have what's called the Administrative Services Credential Program, and then we have added authorizations. Starting with our combined programs, as I mentioned, we have two types. We have a combined credential and bachelor's program, and then we have a combined credential and master's program. For the combined credential and bachelor's program, another name that we call that is the Integrated Teacher Education Program, or ITEP. This is a combined 4-year bachelor's degree and credential. And with this program, you can earn either a bachelor's degree in liberal studies or early childhood studies and pursue the education specialist credential, either mild to moderate support needs or extensive support needs. So within 4 years, you'll have both the bachelor's degree and a credential. Or if you transfer to Cal Poly as a junior transfer, you can complete the bachelor's and the credential within those 2 years that you're here at Cal Poly Pomona. I would like to note that the ITEP program is a very unique and specific program in that these are the only options available with this combined program. If you're not interested in majoring in liberal studies or early childhood studies, or you're not interested in the education specialist credential, let's say you want a single subject credential or a multiple subject credential, the ITEP program is not appropriate for your educational goals, only because those options are not available with this combined program. Your only options with the ITEP program is to major in liberal studies or early childhood studies and pursue the education specialist credential to become a special education teacher. The other combined program that we have is the combined credential and master's program. And you can combine a Master's of Arts in Education in either curriculum and instruction or special education with any of the credential programs. The Masters of Arts in Education are 31 units on top of the credential units. The way the combined program is structured is students must first apply to and be admitted to the credential and complete the credential to pursue the master's or to earn the master's. Once you're admitted to a credential program and you're ready to begin taking master's courses, you'll meet with a master faculty advisor and you'll submit a form in which you request to add the master's to your credential. Additionally, because you do your credential at Cal Poly Pomona, you're eligible to transfer up to 3 of your credential courses, up to 9 units to be applied towards the master's. When you meet with the master faculty advisor, they'll look at your credential courses and they'll tell you which credential courses they'll accept to be applied towards the master's. If they accept 9 units, 9 from 31 leaves you with 22 units for the master's. Now, in order for your credential courses to be eligible to be transferred toward the master's, you do have to earn a grade of B or better in your credential coursework. So you just want to make sure you do well in your credential coursework so that they're eligible to be transferred towards the master's. And the university will not issue the master's degree unless you also earn the credential. You have to do both when you do the combined program. For our teacher credential programs, we have the multiple subject credential, which is a 42-unit program. And this can be completed in 3 to 4 semesters, full-time attendance. The multiple subject credential authorizes the holder to teach multiple subjects to students in self-contained classrooms in preschool, grades K through 12, and in classes organized primarily for adults. Self-contained classrooms, for those of you who aren't familiar, are classrooms where there's one teacher and you teach all of the subjects to the same group of students in one day, similar to what you may have experienced at the elementary grade levels. Our single subject credential program is a 36-unit program, and this can be completed in 3 to 4 semesters, full-time attendance. The single subject credential authorizes the holder to teach a single subject to students in departmentalized classrooms, in preschool, grades K through 12, and in classes organized primarily for adults. Departmentalized classrooms are classrooms where there's one teacher and you teach one subject to a different group of students every hour or every period, similar to what you may have experienced at the middle school and or high school levels. For the single subject credential, we offer several disciplines or subject areas, and I listed them in alphabetical order in 2 columns on this slide. As long as you see the subject area listed, we do offer that for the single subject credential. If for some reason you don't see a particular subject area, for example, business, you'll notice that business is not on this list. And what that means is Cal Poly Pomona does not offer a single subject business credential. If you're interested in a single subject business credential, you would need to seek out a program that offers business as a subject area or a discipline for the single subject credential. Additionally, you'll notice that some of the subject areas have an asterisk next to them. And what that means is at the undergraduate level, Cal Poly Pomona has commission-approved subject matter programs in those subject areas. And if you did attend Cal Poly for your undergrad and completed the commission-approved subject matter preparation programs, you could possibly use that program for subject matter for the single subject credential, and you wouldn't need to take the CSET because you're using your subject matter preparation program. The third type of credential that we offer is the education specialist, and for that we have 2 options. We have the mild to moderate support needs, and then we have the extensive support needs. Both programs are 45 units, and they can be completed in 4 to 5 semesters full-time attendance. The education specialist credential authorizes the holder to teach the subject area of their credential to students in grades preschool, K through 12, and up to the age of 22, with students needing either mild to moderate support needs or extensive support needs. Now, all of our credential programs do also have a part-time attendance option. As far as the time frame it takes to complete the program on a part-time status, it really varies or depends on the pace that the student sets for themselves. So, for example, a student may decide to spread out their credential courses over 4 semesters, 5 semesters, 6 semesters. So depending on how slow or fast the student goes will determine the length to complete the program. But part-time attendance and full-time attendance are available for all of our credential programs. Oops. Now, in addition to our teacher credential programs, we also have what's called an administrative services credential. And the administrative services credential is for current educators seeking to become a school site administrator, vice principal, or even working up at the district level as an administrator. The administrative services credential is a 24-unit program, and that can be completed in 3 semesters. That's full-time attendance, fall, spring, and summer. And you can combine the administrative services credential with a Master's of Arts in Educational Leadership. Only 3 additional courses are required after the credential units to earn the master's degree. Lastly, Cal Poly Pomona also offers what are called added authorizations. An added authorization is an authorization that you add on to a multiple subject, single subject, or education specialist credential, where that added authorization allows you to teach either additional subject area or content or in different settings. At Cal Poly, we have 3 types of added authorizations. We have the agriculture specialist added authorization, we have the adaptive physical education added authorization, and then we have the bilingual added authorization. For the bilingual added authorization, we offer that in Spanish or Chinese, Mandarin or Cantonese. And the units you'll notice next to each of the added authorizations, this is on top of your credential units. And when you do the added authorizations, you have the option to either work on your credential courses first and then tackle the added authorization courses, or you can work on them concurrently and you do the added authorization units and coursework alongside your credential coursework. Again, both options are available. It just depends on the student and how you want to tackle both requirements. Furthermore, let's say you do a credential now, you just do the credential, you get hired by a district, you start teaching, and maybe 3 years down the line, you say to yourself, I think I want to add a bilingual authorization. You could always come back and add the bilingual added authorization. It's not something you have to decide right now. I mean, if you already know you want to do it, go ahead and pursue it. But if you're not sure, know that you can always come back and complete that at a later time. As long as to my understanding, as long as your initial credential is valid, you can always add an added authorization at a later date. Now, for each of our credential programs, we have 2 pathways or routes that you can complete the credential. We have the standard or traditional route, and then we have what's called the teacher intern route. Coursework and exam requirements are exactly the same for both routes. The difference between the 2 routes is the manner in which the program is completed. So for the standard or traditional route, you will complete all of your coursework first, and in your last semester of the program, you will complete clinical practice or student teaching. The Office of Clinical Practice will place you in one of the 40+ districts that we partner with, and you will work with a host teacher for an entire semester for clinical practice, for student teaching. For the teacher intern pathway, because you are already hired by a district and working full-time, you are fulfilling clinical practice requirements throughout the program. Now, everybody starts out on the standard or traditional route, and the reason for this is before you can move over to the teacher intern route, you have to meet what's called intern eligibility requirements. And I'll send you what those requirements are. But once you fulfill the intern eligibility requirements and you get offered a position, you can then move over to the teacher intern route. Now, I would like to note that Cal Poly Pomona does not assist students in finding an intern position, but students are free to seek them out on your own. So what we recommend is once you're admitted to our program, you're completing your courses, you're completing the intern eligibility requirements. If a district approaches you and offers you a position, let us know. Our department will review your file, confirm whether or not you're intern eligible. If you're not intern eligible, they'll let you know what you need to do to become intern eligible. And then once you're eligible, we'll provide you with a letter that you can then give to the district so that they can hire you as a teacher intern. Now, one pathway is not necessarily better than the other. It really just depends on your situation and whether you need to complete the program as an intern. One of the benefits of completing the program as a teacher intern is you're earning an income. You're hired by district, so you have a salary coming in. Whereas for clinical practice, you're volunteering your time for that entire semester. So those are kind of the 2 differences between the 2 routes, standard route versus the teacher intern route. Okay, so those are our credential programs. I'd now like to move over into how to apply to a credential program at Cal Poly, but I am just going to pause briefly to take a look at the chat. And some questions, Jennifer is asking about if I have a bachelor's degree in liberal studies, do I have to take the CSETs for multiple subjects, which Jennifer, you don't mind, if you could hold off just a little bit, I'm going to talk about how to meet subject matter in the next couple slides. Samira is asking, would a psychology bachelor's degree cover the requirement for social science credential? Would I still need to take the CSET? Same thing, Samira, if you don't mind, I'm going to cover that in the next few slides. I do see a question about the ITEP program as far as course offerings, which Sarah, I can talk about. If you don't mind, we'll just wait a little bit as I go through some more of these slides. And thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate your response. And then another question from Samira. Are you allowed to apply to the administrative credential straight from undergrad, or would you already need to be a teacher to apply? Samir, two of the admission requirements for the Administrative Services Credential Program is a teacher credential and 5 years teaching experience. So if you don't have neither, you're not able to apply directly from your undergrad. You would first need to do a credential program, earn your preliminary credential, clear your credential, and obtain 5 years teaching experience before you can apply to the Administrative Services Credential Program. And a subsequent question about teaching assistant positions, would they be eligible for the teacher intern? Unfortunately, no. Teacher assistant positions aren't considered full-time or the teacher of record. In order for you to qualify for the teacher intern position, it has to be your classroom. Like, for example, at Pomona Elementary, the 5th grade belongs to Miss Samir Galvan. Then that could possibly qualify. But if you're a teacher assistant and there's a teacher in the classroom, it wouldn't qualify. Perfect. Great questions, everyone. Thank you so much for submitting those. Please continue to submit your questions, and we'll get those as we keep continuing on with these slides. So when applying to Cal Poly Pomona, you have 3 admission terms that you can apply to a credential program. You have a spring start, a summer start, and a fall start. Each of these admission terms has a different application deadline. Our next admitting term is summer 2024, and the application deadline is February 1st, 2024. For those of you interested in applying for fall 2024 admission, the application deadline is April 1st, 2024. Now, when applying, there are 2 applications that you will need to complete and submit. We have the Cal State Apply application, and then we have the program application. Both applications must be completed and submitted by the application deadline of the term that you apply for. If you submit one application and not the other, they'll consider your application incomplete, and incomplete applications are denied. The Cal State Apply application you'll submit online on the Cal State Apply website, and they do have a $70 application fee. The program application is submitted on Cal Poly Pomona's website, and there is a $25 application fee, which is letter K on the slide. It's called the credential evaluation fee. And then all of these items on this slide, A through K, these are uploaded in the program application, which is on our website. So what I'd like to do now is briefly just pause from the PowerPoint and take you directly to our website, because the website contains links for Cal State Apply, our program application, and then it also kind of explains in further detail all of these admission requirements. So if you're confused on an item, our website will provide you with everything you need to know when applying to the credential program. And I will put this in the chat so you guys can get there quickly if you haven't yet been on our website. So this is our credential programs website. And when you scroll down below the picture on the left-hand side, you'll see several headings. The 5th heading down is titled Admission. And when you click on there, you'll see 2 subheadings pop down. The first one is admission information. And when you click on there, I just wanted to point out just below the YouTube video, which I know it's not available right now. We're working on getting that updated, but you'll notice our application deadlines. So depending on when you want to start, those are the deadlines for each of our admission terms. If we go back to the left for the second subheading, which is program application, this is everything you need to apply to a credential program at Cal Poly Pomona. And you'll notice item number 2 has a link to the Cal State Apply application. For those of you who have not yet been on Cal State Apply website, this is what it looks like. You'll create an account. You'll submit everything that you need to for Cal State Apply. And I'll put that in the chat as well. But that's the first application. The second application is in item number 3, which is our program application. And when you click on the link there, this is our program application. It'll ask you to fill your personal information out and just continue on until you get to the point where you can submit the application. So again, both links to the applications are there on our website. And then you'll notice again the letters A through K, which was on the PowerPoint. This is everything that you'll need to upload and submit with the program application. So starting with the first one, which is the early field verification form or early field experience hours. And when you click on the link, it takes you to a form. And the top paragraph of the form explains the purpose of the early field experience. So the California State University Chancellor's Office wants all applicants to a credential program at a California State University to have completed a minimum of 45 hours of early field experience prior to applying. And these 45 hours can come from either college course practicum or field observations, paid employment, and or volunteer experience. And you can use anything within the last 4 years. When you scroll down on the form in section A, you'll notice sample settings of where you can complete these hours. So this does include college course practicum or field observations, TK through 12 classroom volunteer, teacher's aide or paraprofessional, substitute teacher, adult transition observation or volunteer, after school program aide or volunteer, work with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, YMCA, coaching or assistant coaching. Any of those settings you can use. And you'll notice in the form, you'll fill out sections B through E. And then down in section F, you'll need a supervisor who's verifying your hours to sign and date the form. One thing to keep in mind about the early field experience is the department wants your experience to include the age group of students the credential you're pursuing will allow you to teach. For example, if you're interested in becoming an elementary school teacher and you want to pursue the multiple subject credential, the department wants to see your experience to include students at the elementary grade levels, TK through grade 6. If you're interested in the single subject credential to teach at the middle school and or high school level, they want your experience to include middle school and or high school students, grades 7 through 12. And for the education specialist credential, for those of you who want to become a special education teacher, your experience can include students in grades K through 12. So that's just something to keep in mind. And again, anything within the last 4 years you can use and log on this form. If you're using more than one setting, for example, maybe you have 30 hours of coaching and then you have 15 hours of classroom volunteer, you'll print 2 of these forms out, one for the coaching and one for the classroom experience, and you can combine those hours to equal up to 45. Actually, I think that would only be 40. But anyway, you can combine, you can use 3 settings, 4 settings, or if you just have one setting, that's completely fine as well. Letter B is the certificate of clearance. And the certificate of clearance is a document issued by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And before they'll issue this document, they first want to do a background check just to make sure there's nothing in the adult's background that could be potentially harmful to students. So you'll need to be fingerprinted or live scanned. And then you'll need to go onto the Commission's website, create your educator account, and submit an online application for the certificate. Once the Commission receives your live scan and your online application, it takes them about 7 to 10 business days to process your certificate. Now, there are other Commission documents that you can submit in lieu of a certificate of clearance because those documents required a background check. And those include the emergency 30-day substitute teacher permits or any of the child development permits. If you have those documents and they're valid, you can submit those in lieu of a certificate of clearance. If you don't have a child development permit or the emergency substitute teaching permit, you'll most likely apply for the certificate of clearance. Now, letters C and D are the basic skills requirement and subject matter competence. So I'm going to pause briefly and take us back into the PowerPoint so that we can look at some of the different ways in which you can meet both of those requirements. So with the basic skills requirement, the Commission is looking at your math, reading, and writing proficiencies. And there's more than one way that you can meet these requirements. Just a second while I get us there. For the basic skills requirement, some of you may have already heard of the CBEST, the California Basic Educational Skills Test. you can still take the CBEST to meet the basic skills requirement. But if you don't want to take the CBEST, there are 7 other options available that you can use. And I listed them on this slide or this infographic. So again, option number 1 is you can still take the CBEST. Option 2 is you can pass the CSAT for multiple subjects plus the CSAT writing skills. And passage of those 2 exams demonstrates basic skills to the state. Option 3 is if you passed the CSU early assessment program or the CSU placement examinations, you could use that to demonstrate basic skills to the state. Option 4, if you achieved a qualifying score on the SAT or ACTs, you can use that for basic skills. Option 5 is if you took College Board advanced placement examinations in high school, AP exams for English and math, and achieved a score of 3 or higher, you can use that for the basic skills requirement. Option 6 is if you passed a basic skills exam from another state. Option 7, you can use coursework completed at the community college or university level for math, reading, and writing, as long as you earned a grade of B or higher. You could submit your courses to be reviewed for basic skills. And then option 8 is you can use a combination of exam and coursework. So you don't have to do all 8 options, you only have to select one. But in the application process, all applicants will fill out a form in which you indicate which of these 8 options you're using, and then you'll upload either transcripts or exam scores so that the department can review it and let you know if you meet the basic skills requirement. The other requirement that the commission or the state wants to verify for all teachers is what's called subject matter competency. And subject matter competency, the commission is looking to ensure that all teachers are competent in their subject area to be able to teach it to others. And for subject matter, you have 5 options available that you can demonstrate to the state that you're competent in your subject area. The first one is you can take and pass the CSAT for in your subject area, and CSAT stands for California Subject Examinations for Teachers. Option 2 is if you completed what's called a commission-approved subject matter preparation program. Commission-approved subject matter preparation programs are typically completed at the undergraduate level and in the subject area of the credential you're pursuing. So if you recall, on the screen that I was showing you all of the single subject disciplines or subject areas, some of those areas had an asterisk next to them. Those are all of Cal Poly Pomona's commission-approved subject matter programs at the undergraduate level. And if you completed one of those programs and earned a certain GPA, I think you have to have an overall GPA of 2.75 or higher, you could use your subject matter program for subject matter competency, and you wouldn't need to take the CSAT because you're using option number 2. Option 3 is you can use the successful completion of coursework to demonstrate that you're competent in your subject area. Option 4 is if you have an academic major that is a direct match to the credential you're pursuing. For example, if you majored in mathematics and you're pursuing a single subject math credential, your bachelor's degree in mathematics can be used for subject matter competency for the single subject math credential. Or if you majored in liberal studies and you're pursuing either the multiple subject or education specialist credential, your liberal studies degree can be used for subject matter competency for the multiple subject or education specialist credential. And then my third example is if you have a bachelor's degree in English and you're pursuing a single subject English credential, your bachelor's degree in English can be used for subject matter for a single subject English credential. Again, your degree has to be a direct match, which I believe in one of the questions earlier, we had about, let's see, from Jennifer, if you have a bachelor's degree in liberal studies, do I have to take the CSATs on multiple subjects? Jennifer, if you're pursuing the multiple subject or education specialist credential, your bachelor's degree in liberal studies meets subject matter competence for either of those credentials, and you're not required to take the CSAT. Because you're not using option number 1, you're using option number 4. And then I think we had another question about a psychology bachelor's degree. So a psychology bachelor's degree is not considered a direct match for a social science credential. So in that case, you would need to take the CSET for social science or use one of these other options for subject matter, but a psychology bachelor's degree does not meet subject matter for a single subject credential. And then option number 5, you can use a combination of exam and coursework. So any of those options you can use. And again, when you apply, there's a form that you'll fill out in which you indicate which of these options you're using, and you'll upload either exam scores or your transcripts for the subject matter competence. Okay, so let's go back to talk about some of these other requirements. And let me just take us back to the website because I want to show you where that link is for both of those forms. Right. So again, for each of these items, letter C is the basic skills requirement. And you'll notice a lot of these items have links. Click on every link in every item because usually there's a form you have to fill out, or it'll take you to another web page where you can complete the requirement. So again, for basic skills, you'll click on the form, and then down here on the form, this is where you'll indicate how you plan to meet the reading requirement. If you're using your ACT scores, you'll mark ACT. If you're using your SAT scores, you'll mark SAT. If you're using coursework, it's going to ask you to tell us the name of the course, where you took it, the grade you received, and then some additional documents that you'll need to upload. Same thing with your scores. If you're using exam scores, you'll upload them and then submit the form. And then same thing for letter D, subject matter competence. You'll click on the link and you'll fill out the form indicating which of the options you plan to use. And then you'll upload supporting documents, either transcripts or exam scores. Letter E is the TB clearance. And so you'll need to submit a negative TB test with your program application. TB tests are valid for 4 years. So if you had one done recently, you can upload the TB test. If it's been more than 4 years, then you'll need to obtain a more recent TB test. And you can go to either your personal doctor. You can also try, sometimes I think CVS or Walgreens might offer TB tests. And then if you're a student at Cal Poly Pomona, you can go to our health center for a TB test as well. Letter F is the statement of purpose. And this is an essay the department wants you to write within 2 to 3 pages, 600 to 900 words. And they want you to analyze these 2 prompts: your personal and professional qualities that you possess that will enable you to become an effective teacher in a culturally and linguistically diverse classroom, and your expectations of the Credential program to help you to become an effective teacher. So you just want to make sure you address both of those prompts within your 2 to 3 pages. And you'll type it out in a Word document and then upload it in the program application. Letter G is the minimum GPA required to be admitted to a program at Cal Poly. The minimum GPA required is a 2.5 in all baccalaureate and post-baccalaureate coursework. If your GPA is a 2.5 or above, you can skip over letter G. There's nothing further you need to do. However, if your overall undergraduate and post-baccalaureate GPA is below a 2.5, it doesn't automatically disqualify you for consideration for admission, but what it means is you will need to submit an additional essay with your program application in which you outline the circumstances that contributed to the inability to meet the minimum GPA requirement. And the department will take that statement into consideration when they review your application. Letters H and I are our 2 recommendations. So the first recommendation is what we call academic recommendation, and that can come from a college or university professor who was your instructor. The second recommendation we call experience with youth recommendation, and that can be completed by a professional who's directly observed you work or interact with the youth for a minimum of 20 hours in a TK through 12 setting. Now, a traditional letter recommendation, the individual writes you a letter and they give you the actual physical letter. For us, because our recommendation forms are electronic, you're not going to upload a traditional letter of recommendation. All you need to provide are the name and email addresses of the two individuals. And once you submit the program application, we're going to email those individuals a link to the electronic recommendation form, and they'll complete the form electronically. Letter J is a orientation that all applicants must attend. And to see the dates and times of the upcoming orientation, you'll need to view our orientation page. So when you click on the link and scroll down at the bottom, you'll see the dates of our upcoming orientations. So for our spring 24 applicants, we had a program orientation on August 28th for the multiple subject program for those applying for the multiple subject credential. And for the single subject credential, we had an orientation on September 6th. They both were done online through Zoom. They started at 4 p.m. and last about an hour. Now, our next orientation dates should be in January. We won't have anything until January, so you'll just have to keep checking the website for those dates. And once we have those dates finalized, they'll be listed here on the website. Now, if you're applying for the multiple subject program, you'll want to attend the multiple subject orientation. If you're applying for the single subject credential, you'll want to attend the single subject program orientation. For the education specialist orientation, you'll need to scroll up a little bit on the website and click on education specialist orientation. And you'll notice that it says, please register for an upcoming live session here. So when you click on this link and you scroll down in the description just to the left of the calendar, you'll notice that the education specialist has an on-demand orientation. So when you click here, you'll just complete this at your own convenience. And they've got videos and questions, and you'll do this on your own. This is just for those applying for the education specialist credential. For those of you applying for the multiple subject or single subject, you'll want to look for these live dates. When the live dates are released, let's say you might not be able to attend because you have class or you have work or you have other commitments. There's also the option to view a previously recorded session. And you'll notice there's links there where you can click to view a previously recorded session. So there's lots of options that the department provides to applicants to complete all of these requirements. If you have questions on any of these, feel free to let me know. And I'm more than happy to assist you with any questions you have. And then, as I mentioned earlier, letter K is the $25 credential evaluation fee. If you're not currently a student at Cal Poly Pomona, you can click the link to the cashier's office and you can submit payment online. You don't necessarily have to come to campus to submit this fee, but you'll just click on the online portal. You'll type in the credential evaluation fee, which is $25. You'll enter your personal information, and then on the lower right-hand side, you'll add to your cart. And then you'll then be taken to an online portal where you can submit payment online. For those of you who are, oops, I apologize. I closed the window. For those of you who are currently Cal Poly Pomona students, you can submit payment through Bronco Direct. All right, let's jump right back into the PowerPoint. Just a few more slides before we open it up for Q&A. And I do see additional questions in the chat. I will get to those. But if you don't mind, I'd just kind of like to get through all the slides so anyone who may have to step away at 5 gets all of the information on the slide. Now, I know that that's a lot of information as far as the two applications, but you're not alone through this process. So like I said earlier, if at any point you have questions on either the Cal State Apply application or the program application, reach out to me. My job is to help students through this process. So let me know what questions you have and we'll just take them one at a time. The last thing I wanted to mention on this slide is there is a group interview and on-demand writing sample, but this occurs after the application deadline. So there's nothing you need to do at this point for the interview, but after the application deadline, the department will contact all applicants and they'll provide you with the dates and times of the group interviews. Group interviews are usually done online through Zoom. After the group interviews, it takes the department about 4 to 6 weeks to review all applications and make their admission decisions. So for those of you who would like my contact information, it's here on this screen. My phone number, email, and room location on campus is provided. Additionally, once you're admitted to the Credential program, students are assigned to what's called a Credential analyst, and Credential analysts, help you throughout the program with registering for your classes, fulfilling any credential requirements. And we have 2 analysts that assist students by program. Jennifer Garcia is the Credential analyst for the single subject credential programs, and Amy Acuna is the Credential analyst for the education specialist and multiple subject credential programs. And their emails, phone numbers, and room locations are listed here on this slide. Now, for those of you who are currently Cal Poly Pomona undergraduates, I wanted you to be aware that as an undergrad with junior or senior standing, you can actually begin taking Credential foundation courses in your undergraduate studies if you so choose. These are not prerequisites. You're not required to take these. This is only if you want to get ahead and start taking Credential courses as an undergrad. Now, for each of the Credential programs, I listed the Credential foundation courses. You can take 1, 2, 3, or all 4 of them. You do not need a permission number to enroll in these courses. You should be able to add them to your schedule as long as you have junior or senior standing. And one of the benefits of completing these courses as an undergrad is it reduces the number of semesters after you graduate to complete the Credential. Now, before you enroll in these courses, I do recommend that you reach out to your undergraduate major department and just verify or confirm that you're on track to graduation. I would not take a Credential course in lieu of a course required for your major. Again, because in order to be admitted to a Credential program, you need a bachelor's degree. So focus on your undergraduate courses first. If you have room in your schedule to add these, feel free to do so. For those of you who are not currently Cal Poly Pomona undergraduates, unfortunately, it's not possible to begin taking these courses early. You have to wait until you're admitted to a Credential program. This benefit is only for our current Cal Poly Pomona undergraduate students. Okay, just a few more additional Credential information before we move into Q&A. So in California, once you earn your initial Credential, you can add a second Credential, and you might not have to do an entire second Credential program. So on this slide, I did list some scenarios. The first one is, let's say you have a multiple subject Credential. You start teaching, you love it, it's great, but maybe after so many years, you're looking for a change, and you're interested in teaching single subject physical education. You want to become a PE teacher. You can add a single subject PE Credential to your multiple subject Credential by taking a single subject methods course for teaching PE and demonstrating subject matter competency for PE. Once you fulfill both of those requirements, you would apply directly to the commission for your second Credential. It also works the other way. Let's say you have a single subject English Credential. You're teaching at the middle school or high school level, and then your family has to move up north or further south, and you're in a new district, and you want to now add a multiple subject Credential to your single subject Credential. You can do that by completing 4 requirements. You would need to take a multiple subject methods course. You'll need to take a reading course. You'll need to demonstrate subject matter competency for multiple subjects and pass the RECA exam. Once you complete all 4 requirements, you would apply directly to the commission for your second Credential. And then the third scenario, let's say you have a single subject art Credential, but now you want to add a single subject social science Credential. You can do that by taking a single subject methods course in social science and demonstrating subject matter competency for social science. Once you fulfill those 2 requirements, you would apply directly to the commission for your second Credential. Now, some of you might be thinking, why would you want 2 Credentials? And I kind of explained some of it in the scenarios I provided, but additionally, it might also make you a little bit more marketable to districts if you have more than 1 Credential. So you don't have to have 2 Credentials. Having 1 Credential is completely fine. But if you find that you want to add a second Credential, know that you can do so, and you might not have to do an entire second program. This option also exists for the education specialist credential. However, because you're working with a different population of students from multiple subject or single subject to education specialist or vice versa, if you have an education specialist credential and you want to add the multiple or single, you're working with a different population of students, so it requires more coursework and another round of clinical practice. So I didn't list all the requirements on this slide. What we recommend is if you complete an initial credential and you want to add the education specialist credential or vice versa, reach out to the department. We'll review your initial credential, and then we'll let you know what you need to do to add the second credential. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today is course equivalency. So at Cal Poly Pomona, we have a process which is called course equivalency. And this is for anyone who may have taken a course outside of Cal Poly Pomona that you're curious to see if it's equivalent to a Cal Poly Pomona credential course. And you can submit up to 12 semester units for course equivalencies. And you'll need to submit the course equivalency form along with official transcripts, catalog course descriptions from the year that you took the course, a copy of the syllabus, and verification or documentation of fieldwork if it was completed in the course outside of Cal Poly Pomona. Once the department receives all of those documents, they'll review the course and let you know if it's equivalent to a Cal Poly Pomona course. This review process can take a couple weeks, about 4 to 6 weeks. And if it's determined that equivalency exists, you won't have to take the Cal Poly Pomona course. However, if it's determined that course equivalency does not exist, then you'll have to take the Cal Poly Pomona course as scheduled. And the last thing I want to mention about course equivalencies is the department will consider courses only that meet the 7-year policy, which means only courses taken within the last 7 years. It has to be a recent course. If the course was taken more than 7 years ago, the course is considered too old and not eligible for course equivalency. Okay, so that's everything I had prepared for you. Let me just take a look into the chat because I know there were some questions in here that I did not address. One of them was from Sarah about the ITEP program. Sarah, courses are offered in the mornings, afternoons, and evenings. Some of the classes may be offered in a hybrid format, so you might not have to come to campus for every class meeting. As far as online courses, the credential programs are face-to-face programs. We're not an online program, so we don't have any online courses. However, with COVID, that did change things a little bit. So during COVID, we did have to offer all of our courses online. And although things with COVID have improved, the university has asked all programs to bring courses back to face-to-face learning, but there still are some fully online sections still on the schedule. I just don't know how much longer those fully online sections will be available. When you do come to Cal Poly, if there may be some available, there may not be, just because the type of program that we are, we're not an online program, we are a face-to-face program. So I just don't know. I can't say there will be online sections available. I see a question from Fanny. The Cal Poly Pomona application only gives the option to choose spring 25 as the start term. Do we still click that option even though we want to start in 2024? Fanny, right now, the spring 2024 application is closed, but the summer 2024 application and the fall 2024 applications will be opening soon. If you don't yet see those as an option, it might just be because the application hasn't yet opened. I believe the program application for summer 2024 will open January 1st. I see a question from Hannah. If I have fieldwork experience and paid teacher's aide experience, do I need to submit both forms? Hannah, you'll need at least 45 hours. So depending on how much paid teacher's aide experience you have and how much fieldwork experience you have, you may need to submit both. If you need both to meet 45. If one or the two meets 45 and the other is just additional, feel free to submit both of them. It just lets the department know the breadth and experience you have, but the minimum required for the application is a minimum of 45 hours. So it's kind of up to you how many hours you want to submit. I see a question about the orientation. Do you have to go to the orientation before you apply? You can do those items, those A through K items in any order. You don't necessarily have to do the orientation before you apply, but you have to do the orientation before the application deadline or before you submit your applications. You can submit your application and then do the orientation as long as it's before the deadline. Does that make sense? If not, let me know. And then a subsequent question about, do you have information about tuition and costs and any available grants? Yes, I do actually. So the slide after this one, I do provide some information on tuition for the program. And the way tuition works at Cal Poly is it's based on the classification of the student and the number of units you take each semester. And at Cal Poly, we have an undergraduate fee schedule, we have a credential fee schedule, we have a graduate fee schedule, and a doctoral fee schedule. So for the for the credential fee schedule, I took a copy from our website, which is the little table you see on the left-hand side. If you take 0 to 6 units in the semester, your cost is just under $2,800. If you take 6.1 units and above in the semester, your cost for the semester is about $4,200. So to give you a rough estimate, if you complete the multiple subject or single subject credential programs in 3 semesters, that's full-time attendance. That's about 12 to 15 units each semester. Your cost will be $12,600 for the credential. For the education specialist programs, those are 45 units. And if you complete those in 4 semesters, which is 12 units each semester, your cost is about $16,800. And these estimates are based on the fall 2023 fee schedule. Please note that the university does update their fee schedules every year. So these estimates could vary when you attend the program. And then additionally, financial aid is available. So on the next slide, I do provide a screenshot from our Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships website. They have a portion dedicated specifically for credential students. So you want to make sure you click on there and take a look at that. And if you're interested in seeing what you're eligible for financial aid, I would fill out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. Although credential programs are offered as post-baccalaureate programs, for financial aid purposes, they're considered 5th-year undergrad. So if you received any type of aid for your undergraduate studies, there might be aid available that you can apply to the credential program. There's also links for scholarships available. And then at the bottom, I did provide the name of a counselor in the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. Her name is Lupe Linares, and her email and phone number are provided. Now, the next slide kind of talks about the different scholarships and grants that we have available. And I tried to put the amount for each of them of the grants and scholarships to the right. Some of these are specific by program. So when you review each of these grants or scholarships, you just want to make sure that the program you're applying to is eligible for these scholarships or grants. And then you'll notice some of the grants and scholarships have an asterisk, which means they have a service agreement. So for every year that you receive aid for those scholarships or grants, you promise to teach so many years in a high need, low income field. And as long as you fulfill the service agreement, you don't have to pay those grants back. However, if you are unable to fulfill the service agreement, then in some cases, the grant will convert to a loan or you'll have to pay the money back. So definitely take a look at that. Check out our Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships websites. There's lots of helpful information on there. I do see some additional questions in the chat, which I will get to, but for those of you who do have to step away, it is 5 o'clock. I just wanted to thank you for being here. Please be on the lookout for the email that I'm going to send to you for the links to all of the resources. And then if you have any additional questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to assist you with your questions. For those of you who can still stick around, I'll still be online to answer the additional questions in the chat and any other questions that come in. Hannah is asking a question. I completed my bachelor's degree in child and adolescent development at Cal State Fullerton. Would it be best to submit my upper level courses for course equivalency? Hannah, go ahead and submit it if you feel like you have equivalency, because if equivalency is determined, then you don't have to take those courses at Cal Poly Pomona. It would just save you time and money. So definitely feel free to submit. You can submit up to 12 units. So feel free to submit up, 3, 6, 9, or all 12 units. Worst case scenario, they tell you no, but best case scenario, they tell you yes. So yeah, feel free to submit that form because you might not have to take all of the credential courses if you have an equivalent course. Madeline is asking, is it possible to complete a single subject credential in any subject and add the master's to it? Madeline, we do offer the single subject credential, but not in all areas. The slide earlier had a list of all of the single subject areas that we offer for the single subject credential, but you can add a Master's of Arts in Education to the single subject credential. And let's see, I see a question. I received my bachelor's degree from Egypt and got it evaluated in the United States, and I do have an official evaluation. Would Cal Poly Pomona accept it? They do accept transcripts evaluated, but it has to be by a certain agency. There's a list of approved agencies. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was my dog. There is a list of approved agencies, and I could send you that list. As long as it was evaluated by an approved agency, yes, Cal Poly Pomona will accept it, as well as the commission. But yeah, any coursework completed outside of the United States does need that evaluation to be done prior to applying. Hala, let me send you that list just in case, because an agency can be approved for evaluation, but the commission will only accept evaluations from certain agencies. That's why I was asking. But I'll send it to you. You'll most likely have it had done by an approved agency. I just like to double check in case that it's not. And then Hannah is asking, would I be able to start an education specialist credential and then decide during the program to add a master's degree? Hannah, yes. So when you apply to a credential program, whether you're interested in just the credential or the credential and the master's, because the combined program requires you to be admitted to a credential program first, everyone's going to apply as a credential only applicant. Once you're admitted to the credential program, you can submit a petition to add the master's at any point in the program, whether that's your first semester, second semester, third semester, and so forth. So the application is going to be the same for everyone. Everyone's going to apply as credential only. And then whenever the student is in the program and ready to take a master's course, that's when they'll submit the form to add the master's. Great questions, everyone. I'm just scrolling through just to make sure I addressed every question. If I didn't address your question, I apologize. Feel free to re-enter it in the chat or unmute yourself to ask the question. And there was one more that I see in the chat now. Oh, you're very welcome, Hannah. Any other questions? Well, if you don't have any questions, again, thank you all for joining. It's been my absolute honor and pleasure to speak with you today. Please be on the lookout for that email that I mentioned earlier. I'll include the recording, include the PowerPoint, and then just some of those additional resources I talked about during today's presentation. And then, like I said, again, if at any time you have questions on either the Cal State Apply application, the program application, any of those items, letters A through K, reach out to me, call me, email me, stop by my office. I'm more than happy to assist you throughout this process. Sarah, yes, I'll send you a link to the recording of this meeting. You're very welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Well, you're very welcome, Madeline.